Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Matt Roy, joined by...
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's way over your guys' head. Chuck Migotinik on my right, far right, Don Harris on my immediate right. Gentlemen, how was the weekend?
Hi, Matt.
I know, I feel like I haven't seen you guys in forever.
I know. You did a great job on that Uvalde coverage.
Thank you. Yeah, that's why I wasn't here on Thursday. Lots of breaking news out there. It was a very long day in Uvalde, but well worth it.
I think it was cute to see you and your wife doing live shots together without everybody not knowing that y'all are married.
Yeah,
Jordan Elder now joins me. And
yeah.
Jordan.
Should have sent by her legal name. Jordan Roy now joins me. No coincidence here.
No relation.
No relation at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was fun. It was the first time her and I have actually been able to be like on camera doing a story together. So that was fun.
You guys did a great job. Great coverage.
Thank you. And Zach, thanks to Zach Hedrick filling in with Chuck on Thursday. You guys did a good job as well. We listened to it on the way back, so I made sure everyone got to hear it.
It's like nails on the chalkboard, eh?
No, I mean, I was listening to Greeny the other day, and he was like, I don't listen or watch anything when I'm not there because I don't want to see someone do it better than me. But I like seeing people.
Well said.
But I like seeing it, people do it better than me, so then I know what I can improve. So, anyway, let's get to number 69. A couple of good ones, mainly in football. Jared Allen should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know why he's not yet, to be honest with you. Mark Schlereth, David Bakhtiari for you over there. Chuck?
Oh, yeah.
Is there one that I'm missing,
No,
Don?
you got some good ones there, I think.
Jersey numbers don't pop out to me. 69, what pops out to me is the amazing Mets.
The Miracle Mets.
The Miracle Mets.
That's a good one as well.
That's just the thing that's stuck in my head.
As we start to get
And
to
maybe
these...
Woodstock?
Was that 69 or 70?
I don't know.
Well, now we're going to have to look it up. See, here we are. We're going off the rails again.
Did you guys...
August 15th, 1969.
Oh, okay.
See, you guys remember
Woodstock and the Mason Mets.
Okay, there you go.
I mean, since we're getting into these later numbers, I'm starting to look up like years instead of just jersey numbers. So 69 was the Namath Guarantee game.
Yeah.
The biggest upset in Super Bowl history.
Super Bowl III.
Probably the game that changed the course of the NFL as we know it. I mean, without that game, everyone was starting to question whether the AFL and the NFL should even play against each other because the Packers were just creaming people. Chuck?
Yeah, they've made a history of doing that, by the way.
Yeah, except for this weekend.
Except for on Saturday. On Fox. Good number, though.
Good number. Led right into our newscast if anyone watched on at 9 o'clock. Actually, it was more like 10:25.
So if Super Bowl I was actually called the AFL-NFL Championship game, so there was no merger at that time.
Right.
So then Super Bowl II was the first game of the merger?
No, they merged after Super Bowl III. Or they merged after the Jets-Colts game.
Okay.
This is
pre-merger.
This was the impetus for the merger.
I gotcha.
At least I think that is. If I'm incorrect, somebody correct me. But December 6th, 1969, number 1 Texas beat number 2 Arkansas.
Century.
Game of the century,
Richard Nixon was there.
15-14. Goes on to win the AP National Championship.
Yep.
And 69, the MLB expanded to 24 teams, the Royals and the Seattle Pilots in the AL and the Montreal Expos and Padres in the NL. So some important 69 numbers. Let's get to divisional round recap. We have a big slate here. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot more about the Texans and Ravens than we are about anybody else. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about Cowboys because Don and I haven't gotten to give our 2 cents yet on McCarthy and Jerry Jones and them not winning a championship or even making any changes. So we're going to get to do that, and then we'll talk about Wemby since the Spurs are playing a lot better as of late. Might be because they're playing really bad teams, but who knows? Chiefs beat the Bills last night by 3 on a kick that was very eerily reminiscent of Scott Novak or Norwood, thank you. Novak is a different kicker. Norwood in 91 against the Giants. Eerily similar feeling for those people in Eastern New York.
Where'd you watch that game, Matt?
From the womb. Like I watched it on NFL Classic.
That was just pushed right. That one last night looked like one of my golf shots. Where it was just like you don't know where it's going sometimes.
That was wicked.
It was a defied physics or something.
The amount of screaming going on in my living room from my wife, Jordan, who is a massive Chiefs fan, was...
Is she a massive Chiefs fan, or is she just a Taylor Swift fan?
No, she's a Chiefs fan, sadly. It's really, really depressing. I sent her family a text a little bit earlier today, and I was like, just so you guys know, ever since I've met you, the Chiefs have advanced to at least the championship game or won the Super Bowl. So if you guys could stop for just 1 year, that'd be great, because this is really annoying as a Broncos fan.
It's very Astros of the Chiefs.
It is. But I was listening to the radio today, and there was people making the comparison that the Bills are going to be the new Cowboys, where they just can't get over the hump. They just can't do it.
Well, the Bills have always been that team, if history dictates.
Yeah.
And went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost.
Yeah, the 2 of those to the Cowboys, which were just complete drubbings in, 94, 95,
The
93,
second one was a
94.
little more
93,
competitive.
93, 94.
Yeah. Second one was a little bit more competitive, but the first one was 52-17, something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't that close.
Who did the halftime in that first
Michael
Super Bowl?
Jackson.
Good recall, dude. Nice.
Who did the national anthem in the Scott Norwood kick?
Was that Whitney?
Yes.
No kidding. All right.
The greatest of all time, other than maybe Marvin Gaye at the 83.
Didn't Prince had a great one.
Prince had a great
Prince
halftime
great.
show.
Prince
Yeah,
was
that
Miami in the
fantastic.
rain.
And to be honest, Bruno Mars's, when he just performed
Great.
alone, was fantastic.
Fantastic.
We keep getting off on these tangents, guys.
Yes.
So I have one question coming out of this game. I mean, we'll have plenty of time to talk about the next round on Thursday. One question coming out of this game is, if you guys owned the Bills, if you're Pagula, do you fire Sean McDermott after that performance?
If I can get Belichick. If I can beat Atlanta to get Belichick, I make the move.
But only for Belichick.
Because I think Belichick would do that. He wants to break that record.
Yeah.
Of the most coaching wins.
Yeah, he needs 26, I think.
And he needs a quarterback, and they're primed to win. They're ready to win. So I think he takes that job over the Atlanta job if it's offered.
When you see where that team is, they keep losing in the divisional round, and it's almost reminiscent of those Suns teams in the 90s and all those other teams, the Jazz in the 90s, who just can't get past Michael Jordan. And
there's a great guy on the other side, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. If Patrick is Michael Jordan in this scenario, which he's honestly framing up to be at this point in his career as one of the greatest of all time at his position in his sport, it kind of feels like that. Like you have the Michael Jordan of your time in your sport right now, and you just can't break through. That's what it feels like if you're a Bills fan.
Yeah, kind of a victim of bad timing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I talked about the Bills a few weeks ago, where it just seems like they're too good to be this
mediocre,
not great, right? Yeah. Even during the regular season, it's like they're a hard team to watch or to get behind because you see what they could be, and then there's always the flip side of it too. So it's tough. I mean, I'm sure it's tough for Bills Nation, and they made it abundantly clear with the amount of snowballs, by the way, super classless.
Yeah.
Throwing snowballs at players.
The best part of that game was Jason Kelce shirtless, just throwing it out and then jumping almost. Did you see him almost fall? Because he jumped out of the press box onto a sheet of ice and just almost ate crab.
But hey, man, how about an offensive lineman be able to get back in that booth in a single bound? I thought
he's always been a little undersized.
Those guys are great athletes.
Oh, yeah.
They're the best athletes on the field, Don. Come on.
That was an impressive move.
You don't get yourself to that level. I don't care. You can't just be a speed bump.
All right, let's get one thought from Chuck on the Niners-Packers games from our resident Packers fan. Obviously, the Niners lose by 3. Jordan Love played a good game, but threw a very Brett Favre-esque pass to end that game. So what was your thought?
My thought was the better team didn't win. And I think you guys watched the game too. I mean, they pretty much dominated them, and there were some bad calls with some spots and stuff like that obviously I think a lot of people had a problem with. But overall, that was a Niners team that could have been had on that night based on what I was seeing. If you pressure Brock Purdy up the middle, he's going to have problems. And, I think it's probably fair to say that we should give both quarterbacks a pass given wet balls and often on deluges. But, boy, that was really criminal in a lot of ways that 33, best player on the field, 21 you can make the argument too, and since Debo was hurt most of the game. But 33 doesn't touch the ball on the final drive. And then Jordan Love, how many times do we see him get and evade and elude and get himself out of trouble just to make a bad pass. That was very astonishing in a lot of ways.
As someone who bet the over, I was hoping they tied it up and sent it to overtime.
Yeah, we're not even talking about the kicker, right? But it was
Anders Carlson is he might be on the hot seat going into next season.
I don't want to out anybody too bad here, but I got a text from my son right after the missed kick, and all I got was, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." On the text. He saw that one coming. I think a lot of us did too.
So Lions Bucks. Lions win by.
You raised him well to know that to know those lyrics.
Yes.
Lions win
I
by.
think you got it
8.
from Disturbed though, not from the original.
Shout out to Josh Reynolds scoring the touchdown. John Jay alumni. So shout out to our San Antonio kid there. I think
Had another big catch that was called back.
Yeah, I mean
because
he
of a
ended
hold.
34 yards or so, 2 catches, 34 yards and a touchdown. Not bad for a playoff performance from him. So he continues to make himself
Yeah, had a career year.
whatever word I'm looking for is
Relevant.
relevant. Thank you.
Yes, he had a career year in a lot of situations. A lot of it's just because he's been fairly healthy this year. But I mean, it's his 7th year in the league already. He's had quite a career.
Absolutely.
Most of them with golf, by the way. 6 of the 7 years.
Let's get to Ravens Texans. Obviously, the one that's most pertinent to us here. 34-10. It was 10-10 at half. They really just couldn't get anything going on offense throughout the entire game. They couldn't run the ball to save their lives. Devin Singletary did not have a path. Pierce just couldn't get on the field, and it was basically CJ Stroud go win the game for us, and kind of proved that the Ravens defense is legit. I mean, that's just how it is. So,
I don't watch a ton of other games other than the Cowboys and Texans because of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I watch highlights. After watching a full Ravens game, nobody's beating them.
Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen in the middle just reminds you of that 2000 Ravens defense with Ray Lewis in the middle. Their 2 middle linebackers are just so phenomenal.
And Lamar is just a video game. It's just I don't think anybody beats them. I just tip your cap to them. They were the far better team than the Texans. And you're talking, about defense. The defense and the crowd, and then, I think Jackson has improved to the point and matured that he's not going to make the huge mistakes anymore. They were to me, they were the most impressive team of the weekend.
And I think you had another layer to this too. And we talked about this before about managing the season if you're a coach. Like, you can't let Lamar Jackson run like that during the regular season. He gets hurt, and then you don't have him when you need him. But now everything's on the table, and that's what other teams are going to get. You might have guys that are doing a great job covering on the back end, but when all else fails, he's going to tuck it and go, and they are going to be a real problem now with putting what they just put on film against the Texans for everybody else to have to try to figure out how to stop.
In my opinion, that was a legacy half for Lamar Jackson. You couldn't – of all the demons that he had coming in, the 1 for 3 in the playoffs, he doesn't cover big spreads. They lose those big games seemingly every year. To come out tied after your special teams gives up that touchdown to tie the game up before half, and you ceded a little bit of that momentum to come out and just shut the door right away with 3 touchdowns in the second half. It was just
apparently he lit up everybody in the locker room at halftime.
Yeah, which is also something that he's not used to doing.
Right.
Like he's usually that Eli Manning type leader, the quiet, reserved one that kind of just goes around, puts his arm around people and whispers into their ear a little bit, like, "Hey, come on!" But now he's being that vocal leader that I think the team is really getting around. And I think that was a legacy half.
Plus, they're getting their best player back.
Yeah, I mean,
the tight end from Oklahoma.
They're getting Mark Andrews back. They're getting Marlon Humphrey back. They're getting healthy at the right time. Kyle Hamilton should be able to cover Travis Kelce pretty well. That team's a wagon, man. A team is a wagon. But as far as the Texans go, this season went 100 times better than any of us ever expected it going. Whether you thought they were going to win this game or keep it close or cover or what else, no matter what happened in this game, the season was a success for the Texans.
100%. A lot to love building forward with DeMeco Ryans. Their the way they overcame injuries, Tank Dell didn't play. They're going to get him back. They got a good running game with Singletary. But because of the way the NFL schedule is made, right? They won 3 games a year ago, so they play a bunch of bad teams this year. Mm-hmm. Now that they've won 10 games, Their schedule's going to get tougher. People are not going to overlook them. People are going to know about CJ Stroud. They're going to game plan. I wonder if it's tougher to go from 3 wins to 10 wins, or what's ahead of them, sustaining what they've built.
That's fair. I mean, it's going to be a little bit harder, but you have to like the situation that they're in, right? I mean, you brought up the fact that they were banged up this year. They're going to be, you have to believe, more healthy. I mean, you can't be any less healthy than they were this year. They were top of the heap in terms of number of guys on IR, yet still made the playoffs. And their cap space is really, they've got a lot of it. So, I mean, you've got to believe that they would be able to have a better chance at sustaining next year, given all the variables that we just spoke about.
They need to have another successful draft class, mainly on the defensive side. It seems like on the offense, their offensive line is pretty much locked up. They have CJ. They have their receiving weapons. They might need a running back. They might need another tight end. Dalton Schultz is going to be a free agent this offseason. You don't know if they're going to re-sign him or not. The backup tight end that they have is fast as all get out. You saw that when he ran for, 75 yards against the Browns.
That Brevin Jordan?
Yeah, Brevin Jordan.
He's really,
he is quick, especially for someone as big as he is. So I think that on their defense, they need a lot more dudes, whether that's the D-line, the linebacking core, back up to Derek Stingley, maybe someone opposite Derek Stingley over there. So I think that's how they take the next step. But I was asked a really, really interesting question yesterday, so I wanted to ask you guys the question. If you were starting a team right now and I gave you the option of picking Jordan Love or picking CJ Stroud to start the team with, after seeing what we've seen, not counting their cap space, who would you start a team with? Because I think after what you saw from Jordan Love in the last 9 games, I think he was 18-1 TD to interception ratio in the last 8 games of the season. He's shown that he can play really well. I think CJ is going to be the rookie of the year, obviously. So who would you start a team with?
I watch a lot more CJ. To me, I'm not going to die on that hill on either one. It's a coin flip to me. I would probably say CJ. I like his arm talent. I like the way he handles himself. And I think this year he had a lot of clutch comeback wins, last drive wins. To me, that's a huge characteristic because to me, that's the same thing separating Dak from being elite is that he doesn't have the clutch gene. Mm-hmm. I think CJ has that. I don't watch enough of Jordan Love to know if he does.
Yeah, I mean, so you could do the age thing, right? You can always say that CJ's younger. To me, CJ is sturdier, and I just like the fact that this guy was a rookie and he just doesn't turn the ball over. To me, if you can start with that, that's a hell of a base to go from. And obviously he has a lot more attributes than just not turning the ball over. And I think he's more accurate than Jordan Love at this point. I mean, obviously neither one of these dudes' story's been completely written.
Right.
So I would go CJ Stroud at this point too, with, again, having the benefit of having seen CJ Stroud more than I have, more than just cut-ups of
What if I was
Jordan
to
Love.
add Brock Purdy into that?
I would put him 3.
It would still be CJ?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to check because I would go the same way. I would go CJ then Love. I think Love is really good, but CJ's clutch gene. I'm in the same boat as you here, Don. You've seen him in college be clutch, big games against Georgia, at Ohio State. Like you see what he can do in those big games, and you saw it against the Browns. Like he showed up huge as a rookie in a playoff game.
Yeah. Plus the injuries that he had to guys outside.
Yeah, exactly.
And Dalton missed a lot of time this year. I mean, I know these other quarterbacks are dealing with the same kind of nonsense with the injuries and all that, but I don't know. If you got to pick one, I think CJ's the guy.
Yeah, and I think scouts don't miss a lot, you know? Like, look who's left. Goff, was he number 1 overall pick?
Yep. Purdy.
Purdy, you brought him up.
Mr. Irrelevant.
That was my point. He was Mr. Irrelevant. So Stroud and I think Love both were what?
First round. I mean, Love was, I think, 27, 25, something like that.
Okay.
But I mean,
CJ was 2. Allen, number 1 overall.
No, Allen was 6th, I think.
First quarterback taken.
No, he was after Baker.
Wow. Mahomes
was the second quarterback taken after Mitch Trubisky.
Oof.
No, maybe he was 3rd because Deshaun, I think, was before him. He was that same draft class. Those were the 3. That was the big thing with the Bears is that they drafted Mitch instead of Deshaun or Patrick Mahomes. But like you look at the quarterbacks that are left, and you have Lamar, last pick in the first round. I forgot what year it was, 2017, 18. Heisman winner. Now probably going to be a 2-time MVP. You have Patrick, who I believe was the 12th pick in the draft, traded up. The Chiefs traded up, I think, from 27 to get him in that position. Then you have Brock, obviously, who is the last pick in the draft. Outlier of the century. I think I saw a stat. Every quarterback this weekend was a first-round pick except for Brock Purdy, I believe. So let's get to the Cowboys real quick. So the Cowboys, obviously, you and I weren't here, Don, last week to give our takes. I'm going to go ahead and give mine real quick. I know you have one as well that you did on Don's Extra Point. So in my opinion, the move to keep Mike is a move to just stay in the headlines. Like, Jerry is continuously showing he doesn't give a crap about winning a Super Bowl anymore, in my opinion. I don't think that he cares. I don't think he wants – maybe he wants to, and if it happens, it happens. But I don't think he cares about winning a Super Bowl. I think he cares about staying in the headlines, or starting off the show on ESPN every day, people talking about his franchise. We've all said he's the best at doing that. He is the best at doing that. Keeping Mike McCarthy is going to assure you a 10-win season, at least, in my opinion. But it's not going to assure you any more than that. And doing this, keeping the status quo, maybe even bringing Dan Quinn back, no heads are rolling, nothing's happening. You're just going to be like, all right, let's run it back so we can win 12 games, stay maybe in contention all year, and then lose again in the playoffs, just so I can make some more money. That's all it says to me.
Yeah, I had my own hot take on this last week, and I don't know that it was completely fair because I don't really have a fix, right? My take was insanity, by definition, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And I went back to 21, 22, and I showed clips of me on Extra Points talking about, the quarterback sneak and try to spike at the end of the Niners game where they miscalculated the time and that ran out. Time management issues, which he had. He had time management issues against the Lions too, that got overlooked when they won that game here a couple weeks ago, where they threw the ball on second down.
It's every game.
And then Dak is the bigger issue because he's going into year 9 and has never shown us the clutch gene that we've talked about with CJ. But what's the alternative? Is the alternative bringing in Belichick? Is the alternative? You can't do anything with Dak's contract. You have to have Dak Prescott on your team. You can't have $50 million in dead money, but I would never in a million years give him another 5 years at $200 million to have him in year 14 doing the same thing. So I don't know what the answer is, but to me, the answer, I agree with you that certainly Dak, I'm a bigger believer in McCarthy than I am in Dak, is not the answer.
Well, because McCarthy's done it before.
Yeah, but I think getting the headline would have been to do the Belichick move. That would have gotten the most headlines. I think Jerry's looking at it like this. What gives me the best chance to win it all next year? And you can make the argument that running it back after seeing what they did in the regular season might be that versus blowing it up, getting a new quarterback. Who would that be? And going with Belichick or somebody else.
The way I look at it is like almost – remember when the Warriors hired Steve Kerr and fired Mark Jackson, even though Mark Jackson was taking them to the second round every year?
Yeah, but there was a lot there.
There was a lot else there, but what I look at that and see is if you change the head guy and maybe tweak the attitude and tweak the culture around there, then you can explode and actually make the most out of the talent that's on your team, because I think we can all agree that the talent that's on the Cowboys is top 5 in the league. They have a talented roster from top to bottom. What they're not doing is getting the most out of that talent. Whether it doesn't all fall on Dak, but it falls on all of the players that are on that team who aren't tapping into their full potential because of the coaching staff.
I just know this. I watched these games this weekend, and a number of times things popped into my head like, that's better than what the Cowboys than what McCarthy would have called in that situation.
Yeah.
Like there's some of these young OCs that had a lot of creativity.
Yeah, how about the Packers on Saturday night? I mean, some of the nuanced pick plays that they were running weren't picks, but
or the
they were
Texans.
Just, like on the 2-point conversion was really tricky. I mean, you had 3 wides, and all 3 of those wides were just there so that 33 could get wide open, and the linebacker had to get chipped by 4 different dudes. There was no way he could cover them. You're right. I said the same kind of thing. It's like, wow, I don't see that kind of creativity in some of these plays. No. But again, they're going to have a whole off season and another year with this offense to possibly see that they can maybe make it a little more pizzazz
But Chuck, here's the
driven.
thing, like when it comes to this roster, this is as good as the roster was going to get. You went now looking forward. Now you have to re-sign Micah Parsons, who is arguably the best at his position. You have to re-sign CeeDee Lamb, arguably the best at his position, and and you have to sign Dak, who is top 10, give or take, at his position. But you have to pay him like he's a top 3.
That's what I don't get.
So
why?
Because the cap number is $60 million next year. So you have to sign him for an extension and lower the cap number by giving him more money.
Yeah, and there's no way to deal him any other way. You can't cut him. You can't trade him.
No.
You can't.
And that's the thing. Like, you're going to re-sign Micah, and he's going to make $35 million a year because that's the going rate for a top-tier pass rusher right now. That's what TJ Watt made. He's going to make more money.
So they're going to have to make this work.
You're going to have to pay CeeDee Lamb $25 million. That's 60 right there, and then 60 to Dak. There's half of your cap space for 3 players, plus the Trayvon Diggs deal. They are screwed.
Yeah.
You wanted to use another word there, didn't you, big fella?
Yeah. They are screwed.
Hey, the Packers are getting ready. I just saw Adam Schefter tweeted about they're going to give Jordan Love. It's like, see, these are why the opportunities on Saturday night that the Packers had, you could say, well, the foundation, now it's going to be the same thing. You built a nice team, a nice young team, historically young team, around a quarterback who's he's still working under his rookie deal. Now the dynamic is going to change. So all of these good young players are also going to be seeking some more money at some point. Now you have to start pairing them off and hope that you draft well, which they've been.
How'd the Chiefs do it after giving Mahomes all that money, Kelsey all that money,
They've
and
got
Chris Jones all that money?
Kelsey doesn't make that much money.
Really?
He only makes 12, 13.
Well, they got Jones.
Jones was re-signed to a 1-year deal.
Yeah,
They don't have a lot of people that make a lot of money on their team right now. They they almost treat it like Belichick did all those years. Like, they trade guys before they want the big deal. Like, they signed Tyreek, but Tyreek wanted more, so they traded Tyreek. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
I mean, plus look at their receiving core. They're making pennies on the dollar because that's what they deserve.
This is going to be the thing that the Packers face. It's just like the Cowboys. It's like, we all like Dak. We just don't like Dak at that price because of what it does to the rest of your roster. And the Packers are going to be in the same canoe.
Yeah, and when you look at
Who would you rather have? Let me ask you this. Big money. Let's say the going rate for the best at that position. And I know quarterback makes more than receiver, whatever. But apples to apples, CD, Micah, Dak. You got to trade one in order to save your cap. Who do you keep? Who do you trade?
Well, you can't get rid of Dak because you don't have his replacement. So it goes back to where everything he's not, he is the other side.
He's harder to replace.
they went 4-0 with Cooper Rush.
They got Trey Lance sitting there.
I would trade Dak or cut Dak because, one, you could get the most for him. 2, it would save you the most on your cap. You would have dead money.
Does anybody want that
100%.
All that money on the cap?
If you're the Falcons, I'd want Dak if I was the Falcons.
But you couldn't get equal value back.
No, you'd probably get a first and a second round pick. I think you could trade Dak for 2 firsts.
Well, I don't know.
I think you could trade Dak for 2 firsts.
I mean, that's always a tough one too, because given his age, I mean and then the injury too. He doesn't move like he used to be able to move. I mean, that's apparent.
No, he doesn't. But this is all suffice to say, we're going into what is probably going to be one of the ugliest off seasons for the Cowboys in a long time, especially if they bring Dan Quinn back. You already have.
They're not. He's getting 3 interviews this week.
Yeah,
he's going to get one of those jobs.
He might get to the Seattle job. I don't know if he's going to get a job, but even if he doesn't get a job, do you keep him or do you fire him if he doesn't get another job?
They're not going to fire him.
Exactly, but that's the whole point, is that you have hundreds of thousands and millions of fans out there that are just seeing you be like, it didn't work this time. Let's try again next year.
Yeah.
And then you already have family members of CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott going off on Twitter on other teammates. It's like, this is going to be one of the most tumultuous off seasons I've ever seen for the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's always hard from an organizational standpoint because it's like, again, you have a 7 seed, the Packers, that was this close to beating not only the 2 seed, which they whipped, but they almost beat the 1 seed. And so, do you change everything or make drastic changes based on somebody else's hot streak or your bad day at the office? I mean, those are hard questions to answer, right? I can certainly understand Cowboy fans' frustration. I just don't know what you do. I think
Yeah.
it goes back to your point.
Yeah.
What is the solution?
What's the solution? But you know this. They preyed on a lot of weak teams, and not just this year because they were good this year in a lot of ways. But when it comes down to the moments that made Montana and Bradshaw and Aikman and Mahomes, those, there were some plays this weekend where you can point back to a 4th and 4 or a 3rd and 8 that you got to have. The guys make the plays. CJ Stroud might be one of those guys. The guys that can make the play that has to be made. Dak's not that guy.
No, he's not. But I guess
because it takes accuracy and it takes arm talent and it takes all those things that make you either the first pick overall or the 4th rounder from Mississippi State.
I guess my point is everything was set for them this year. Everything broke right for them in this playoff run. They had the 2 seed. They had home field at least until the divisional round. They won the division. Everything broke right. The cap was still under control to an extent. You haven't re-signed, paid your big guys yet. Everything broke right for them, and they still couldn't get it done. So why are you trying to do it all again when the ideal scenario, you couldn't do it, is my point. Like, what are you expecting to change?
Insanity. It's the definition of doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Exactly. And Jerry just wants to remain in the headlines, so he's going to not win another championship for another year. So I hope next year when we're doing this, if you would convince me to buy into the Cowboys again, I swear.
I deserve my spanking.
It doesn't matter if none of us buy into the Cowboys because there'll be a lot of people that will.
Sure.
And they're going to be a fan no matter what. And that's okay. That's what fandom's all about. But nobody does anything better than the Dallas Cowboys do with staying in the public psyche for good or for bad.
That's the worst part is that no matter what happens next year, we're going to lead every podcast from August until
and by training
January.
camp, we will be sitting here talking about the secret sauce that they've found going into camp, and this is going to be different, and they're going to do this, and boy, they're going to be favorites.
How exciting. We're going to skip the Spurs since we're already a little bit over today. We're going to do more Spurs on Thursday. Hopefully they have another win in their pocket by then. I don't know if they will, but we'll see.
They got a chance Wednesday night.
8-34 right now. So,
but they're playing Embiid tonight. Have you seen what he's doing?
Embiid is if Embiid actually meets the threshold for MVP for the games played, he's already missed like 10. So if he hits it, he's going to be the runaway MVP.
He has 30 or more in 20 straight games.
He's insane. It's so nice to see.
Wilt.
And quick tangent. It's so nice to see him healthy.
Yeah,
like the early part of his career when he wasn't healthy, it was so aggravating for everybody because he was the generational talent. He was the process guy, and it's just so nice to see the best players in the league be the best players in the league.
He's really good. He's going to eat Wemby alive tonight.
Real quick, if you were starting a team in the NBA right now, how far down would Embiid be to start your team with?
He's a little old.
That's fair.
5th, 6th, probably. I don't know.
Would Wemby be above him?
Wemby would be above him because of age.
Chuck?
Man, I don't know. You guys,
I haven't given this much
you guys have
thought.
been ripping on Dak, and I think of, man, how come Embiid's going to get a pass here?
I'm not saying Embiid's a great postseason player. I'm just saying he's really good.
Yeah, he's nowhere near my list.
I'm not saying I would start him or I would pick him over guys like Giannis. I'm just saying he's just a really good player.
To me, I see a lot of similar. I won't go into it, but I just.
Yeah, you got a good point with
next.
the playoff clutchlessness.
I also think a lot of that falls on Doc Rivers, but this is a whole other conversation for another day.
I might take Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Dude, that dude's amazing too. Anyway, like I said, we could have a whole nother episode based on this conversation. But anyway, we'll talk more about the Spurs on Thursday. That's it for the Sneakers Cleats podcast Monday edition. Remember to download, subscribe, rate, review on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. We'll be back on Thursday. Preview the conference championship games. Hopefully I can pick them right once again. And we will talk more about the Spurs. We'll see you then.